It sounds impossible, but 4 out of 10 people making over $500,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. They earn more in a month than many people earn in a year, yet they have no financial cushion. Take Mary, a software engineer in Austin making $227,000 a year. She drives a luxury SUV and lives in a $3,100 apartment. Then there is Gina, who teaches 8th grade in Ohio and makes $54,000. Gina drives a used car she already paid off and wears basic jeans. While Mary has only $11,000 in savings and is $63,000 in debt, Gina has $226,000 invested for her future. The story you have been told, that earning more money makes your money problems go away, is the most expensive lie in American finance. This happens because of an invisible enemy called lifestyle inflation. It is a silent force that causes your spending to grow every time you get a raise. This video is not really about Gina and Mary. It is about you. If you feel trapped despite a good salary, you are likely making the biggest mistake of your career. You are busy performing wealth for others to see instead of actually building it for yourself. It is time to stop running on the treadmill and learn how to actually keep what you earn. I'm Presh, and on this channel, we break down the hidden rules of money so you can stop working for your paycheck and start making your paycheck work for you. If you're ready to stop the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck and start building real freedom, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what we're covering next. The data shows that having a high salary does not always mean you are safe. In fact, 1/3 of American families who earn over $100,000 a year say they are living paycheck to paycheck. This is not a mistake in the numbers. These households earn more than 70% of all Americans, yet by the end of the month, they have nothing left in their bank accounts. There is a strange trap that happens as you earn more money. Research shows that people making $100,000 a year are actually more likely to feel financial stress than those making only $50,000. Read that sentence again, because it breaks the way most of us think about money. We assume that doubling our income would solve our problems, but for many, it actually makes them feel more trapped. Even for those earning $150,000, the struggle is very real. About 20% of these high-earning households spend 95% or more of their entire paycheck just on basic necessities. They're bringing home a lot of money, but it disappears almost as fast as it arrives. This proves that the high-income poverty trap is a real pattern that affects millions. It is not just about how much you bring in, it is about how much stays in your pocket after the bills are paid. To understand why this happens, imagine your income is like water being poured into a glass. When you get a raise, it is like moving that water into a much larger glass. You would think the water would only fill the bottom, leaving you plenty of extra room. But for most people, their spending habits naturally grow to fill the exact shape of their new, larger income. Before they know it, the new glass is full and they are back to having no extra room at all. There is a scientific reason for this called hedonic adaptation. This is just a fancy way of saying that your brain gets used to new things very quickly. When you move into a beautiful $3,100 apartment or drive a brand new luxury SUV, you feel a huge rush of excitement. However, research shows that this feeling usually fades within about 3 months. Your brain decides that this new, expensive lifestyle is now just normal. This leads to a painful result. By the time December rolls around, the thrill of the fancy apartment and the fast car has completely disappeared. You don't even notice the luxury anymore because you are used to it. But even though the joy is gone, the 72-month loan payment is still there. You are left working hard to pay for things that no longer make you happy, trapped on a treadmill that never seems to stop. To break out of this trap, we need to change how we talk about money. Most people use the words income and wealth like they mean the same thing, but they are actually very different. Income is simply the money you earn from your job each month. It is the cash that flows into your bank account. Wealth, on the other hand, is the money you actually keep. It is the value of your savings, your investments, and the things you own outright without owing the bank a dime. There is a huge distinction between looking rich and being wealthy. For example, imagine a family that brings home $300,000 every year. They have a giant house, 2 new cars, and they go on fancy trips. But if they also have a massive mortgage, huge car loans, and credit card debt, they have a high income but very little wealth. If their income stopped tomorrow, their lifestyle would disappear instantly because they don't actually own anything. The bank does. Think of your income like a carpenter's tool. If you give a master carpenter a basic $100 saw, they can still use their skill to build a masterpiece. But if you give a person who has never built anything a $10,000 professional power saw, they won't suddenly become a master. In fact, without the right skills, they will probably just end up hurting themselves. Your salary is just a tool. The quality of that tool does not determine how your life turns out. Your skill in using that tool does. A big salary can help you build a great life, but only if you know how to handle it. Without financial skill, a bigger salary just gives you a sharper way to cut into your own future. When we think of millionaires, we usually imagine people with high-pressure jobs like doctors, lawyers, or tech executives. But the reality is much more surprising. Recent studies show that teacher is actually one of the top 5 professions for millionaires. Even though teachers earn a modest salary, they appear on the list of wealthy people more often than many high-paid professionals. This is because they understand that wealth is not about what you earn, but how you manage what you have. The truth is that most real millionaires live very quiet lives. About 94% of millionaires live below their means, which means they spend much less than they could afford to. They don't live in giant mansions or behind gated walls. Instead, most of them still live in normal, middle-class neighborhoods, right next to people who have no idea how much money they have. They aren't trying to impress anyone. They are focused on their own security. Wealth usually looks very boring. It doesn't look like a shiny new sports car or designer clothes. More often than not, it looks like a 5-year-old car that is already paid off and a brown bag lunch brought from home. True wealth is invisible. It is the peace of mind that comes from having money in the bank rather than items in your driveway. While the world is busy looking at the visible rich who spend every dime, the actual millionaires are the ones you would never notice in a crowd. To see how this works in real life, you need to understand a simple formula called the wealth gap ratio. This is just the space between how much money you earn and how much money you spend. Most people focus only on the first number, their salary, but the second number is what actually determines your future. The bigger the gap between those two numbers, the faster you build a life of freedom. Let's look at our earlier example to see the math in action. Even though Gina earns much less as a teacher, she keeps her costs low, giving her a gap of $14,000 every year to save and invest. Mary earns a massive salary, but because she spends almost all of it on a luxury lifestyle, her gap is only $4,000 a year. Even though Mary earns 4 times more than Gina, her actual wealth-building engine is much smaller than hers. When you look at this over 20 years, the results are shocking. If they both invest their gap into the stock market, the difference becomes a mountain of money. After 2 decades, Gina's small but steady savings could grow to roughly $685,000. Meanwhile, Mary's savings would only reach about $195,000. They both live in the same economy and have the same investment options, but they have opposite outcomes. This happens because Gina focused on the gap while Mary focused on the paycheck. It proves that a small salary with a big gap will always beat a big salary with no gap at all. The world around us is designed to soak up every extra dollar we earn. We live in a consumer economy that is very good at turning our new income into monthly bills before we even have a chance to save it. It starts with small things like $200 in hidden monthly subscriptions, but it quickly grows into $1,000 car payments. This is the social mirror. We look at what our coworkers and neighbors are doing, and we feel like we have to match them just to fit in. When people start earning 6 figures, they often feel a new kind of pressure. They feel like they should send their kids to expensive private schools, take international vacations every summer, and fill their homes with luxury appliances. They buy these things because they want to look like they belong in their new social circle. They want their outside life to match the number on their paycheck. This is how high earners end up with a life that looks amazing but feels incredibly heavy. The real danger is that these choices become fixed costs. A fixed cost is a bill that you have to pay every single month, no matter what. Once you sign a lease on an expensive car or move into a huge house, you are stuck. These costs are very hard to change without feeling like you are failing or moving backward in life. Most people would rather keep struggling to pay for a life they can't afford than admit to their friends that they need to downsize. They become prisoners to their own lifestyle, working harder and harder just to keep the lights on in a house they are too stressed to enjoy. The secret to breaking this cycle isn't having more willpower, it is building better systems. Successful wealth builders like Gina don't spend their energy every day trying to say no to things they want to buy. They don't struggle or fight with themselves at the mall. Instead, they make their savings happen automatically. They have realized that if they wait until the end of the month to see what is left over, the answer will almost always be zero. The strategy is simple but powerful. You set up automatic transfers so that a portion of your paycheck goes directly into your retirement accounts or index funds the moment it hits your bank. By doing this, the money is gone before you ever have a chance to see it or think about spending it. You learn to live on whatever is left in your main account. When your savings are handled first, you don't have to worry about overspending because the money for your future is already safe. Most people have their lives set up backward. They make it effortless to spend money with one click on their phones, but they make it very hard and confusing to save. You have to flip that script. You must make wealth building the default setting for your life. When you automate your investments, you take the human element out of the equation. You stop relying on how you feel that day and start relying on a system that works while you sleep. By making saving easy and spending a conscious choice, you finally put yourself back in the driver's seat of your financial life. We often tell ourselves that we are just one more raise away from finally feeling secure. But the uncomfortable truth is that the gap between the life you have and the life you want has very little to do with your salary. It has everything to do with financial literacy, the simple skill of understanding how money actually works. A bigger paycheck will not fix a hole in your pocket. It will only make the hole bigger if you don't know how to sew it shut. The good news is that the rules of this game are not complicated. You do not need a degree in math or a background in finance to win. These rules are learnable, and they are the same for a teacher as they are for a CEO. You don't have to be a genius to build wealth. You just have to be disciplined enough to follow a plan. Wealth is built through small, consistent choices made every single day, not by hitting a jackpot or getting a promotion. As we finish, remember this. You don't necessarily need to earn more money. The truth is, you might already earn enough to build the dream life you want. You just need to stop letting it leave your hands so quickly. Stop focusing on how to bring more water into the glass and start focusing on how to plug the leaks. Your journey to true freedom starts the moment you decide that keeping your money is more important than showing it off. Start today. Automate your savings and finally take control of your future.